Welcome this morning to the Board of County Commissioners Agenda Setting Work Session. This is August 26th. It's a Monday, and we're going to start by reviewing tomorrow's BoCC draft agenda, and then get into the rest of the stuff from there. So, moving into introductions. I'm John Hutchings.
Ty Menser.
Robin Campbell.
Ramiro Chavez.
Thomasina Cooper.
La Bonita Bomar.
Robin Courts. Megan Porter.
And again, everybody, thank you for being here today. So we'll start with the draft agenda for Tuesday, August 27, 2019. We'll call the meeting to order at 5:30 p.m. in Yelm, at Yelm Middle School in the Commons area. That's tomorrow, Tuesday evening, rather than today, rather than tomorrow afternoon, rather. Then we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Edwards, and then approval of the agenda and approval of the board meeting minutes, presumably on both of those. Then we go right into presentations. Then the first one is Emergency Services, a proclamation for National Preparedness Month.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioners. Before we get into the agenda, just for the viewing public, the reason that you're reviewing the agenda for tomorrow's board meeting today, which is a Monday, is to give you enough time to see if you have any changes in the revisions to the agenda. Since the meeting in Yelm High School is at 5:30, is a special meeting, and we need to post the agenda 24 hours in advance. So that is the reason why you review the agenda today and not tomorrow morning, as is customary. Just as a matter of clarification as to why we do this.
Is it Yelm Middle School or Yelm High School?
Yelm Middle School, thank you, the comments, Middle School.
And the reason we're doing this is because earlier in the year, we did a BoCC meeting in Rochester in the evening. Now we're doing one tomorrow night in Yelm in the evening. And then before the end of the year, we will do one in District Number 1. So we hit all three districts. At one point in time, we're in the community. And so the last one is yet to be determined of the location. So that's why we're doing it again in Yelm tomorrow night.
Yeah, you also have what we call an agenda setting tomorrow morning from 9 to 10. And this is just to follow-up items on the normal agenda that you may not be able to cover that today. Since after this meeting and for the rest of the week, you have a schedule to go through the budget adjustments for 2020. And at some point, we'll go through that schedule in a minute.
And when we did introductions, I should have mentioned Commissioner Vice Chair Gary Edwards is excused today. All right, so national preparedness.
Yeah, for your consideration, Commissioners, there is for you to proclaim September 2019 as the National Preparedness Month in Thurston County. This is a yearly event, and Kurt Hardin, the Emergency Services Director, will be presenting the background related to this proclamation. And he's here if you would like to ask him any questions.
Any questions?
About the preparedness.
Yeah, that proclamation?
No.
Me neither. And the second one is Emergency Services for Medic 1.
So the next few items, we took as an opportunity, since this meeting tomorrow in Yelm Middle School is going to be an opportunity to reach out to the communities, is to give some of the departments an opportunity to give a presentation, nothing specific, a presentation about their business. So the first one is again from Emergency Services. This presentation will be given by Kurt Hardin, the Director, and it will be an overview of Medic 1 and emergency management divisions of his department.
Okay. That's right. Any questions or comments about the presentation?
Are we going to be talking about any of the facts related to the ballot proposition, or is that not part of what it's going to be? Okay.
No, we couldn't talk. Yeah. There will be just an organizational overview.
Got it.
There, okay. I was looking for an item and I found it, number 7, good. After that, presentation is one by Joshua Cummings, the Director of CPED.
Likewise, Josh, the Director of CPED, will provide an update on programs and projects related to the Community Planning and Economic Development Department.
And then we're going to move right into Public Works.
Yeah, Public Works will be providing a presentation related to, and the title is, Why Do We Chip Seal Perfectly Good County Roads? And Scott Davis will give an overview, especially this time of the year. As you travel around the county, there's many chip seal projects that we have, and this is just a good opportunity for Scott Davis to give you the technical background as to what we chip seal, what appears to be perfectly in good conditions roads. Also, just to let you know, also they will give you an opportunity to give farewells to Scott Davis. He has accepted a new position with the Department of Transportation, and I believe his last day is this coming Friday.
Wow.
We
Okay.
just learned that last week.
You didn't know that then, did you?
Did not know that.
On vacation. Yeah, that's a hit. Yeah. I'm looking forward to that, and it's titled, like you said, Why Do We Chip Seal Perfectly Good County Roads? But it's also city roads, and it seems they do it at the same time. And if anybody's riding on two wheels, it's exceedingly detrimental because you can't find an alternate route to take without running into another chip seal and loose gravel everywhere. So people be careful, but there's a good reason why we're doing it, right?
It is a good reason,
Okay.
Commissioner.
Next one is Public Health and Social Services.
Yeah, Mariano Aguero will give a presentation related to the teen health related issues, and she will concentrate on data related to the county as well as within the young community.
Anything? Marianne Ogaro is our epidemiologist, and she's got some riveting data. No matter what she's talking about, she just captivates the audience with the information she has. Very smart lady, and we're very fortunate to have her as a county employee. Then we move on to opportunity for the public to address the board, and I would imagine Yelm has a voice.
Yes, I'm very hopeful that young residents will come and take this as an opportunity to address the board. But also, you may probably hear from Mr. Pettit. I believe he submitted another correspondence yesterday. I just reviewed that this morning, and I will be working with Elizabeth and Robin to provide a response. He's asking questions related to the bond counsel contract that we have with Foster Pepper. That's an attorney's firm. So we'll go through the details of his letter, and then we'll provide an appropriate response as soon as feasible.
Any questions for that? Okay. Okay. They'll move on. Probably another opportunity to address the public. Do you think we're going to hear anything about biosolids?
Probably not, since the biosolids project that was planned in the young community has been pulled out.
They disbanded or whatever? Okay.
I believe the proponent is no longer interested in pursuing that project.
Okay. Anything else on address the public? Okay. Moving on to the county manager's update.
I will just update in terms of the correspondence we just have received. I will acknowledge the receiving that correspondence from Mr. Pettit, and they will be providing an appropriate response as soon as feasible.
Okay. Move into agenda item number 3, consent items A through E. The first one is the assessor's office reclassification.
Yeah, for your consideration, commissioners, this is an effort from the assessor's office, and I believe on the luncheon with elected officials, he stated that he's going through looking for efficiencies within his office, which has generated a series of reclassifications and realignments. And in this particular case, he is requesting the board to reclassify the commercial property appraisal to an appraiser supervisor. And he believes this is a critical change to meet deadlines and assist them with the growing workloads the field appraisers face on a yearly basis. This particular action will have an impact on the budget. It will go from $6,390 to $7,044. That will be an increase of $654 or 10% increase. Although the program might appear to be an increase, he's not asking for an additional budget authority. But on the previous reclassifications that he has made, also he has reduced the budget. So he's very cognizant of the impact on the budget, and his decisions related to a reorganization is a net zero impact to the budget as a whole.
Good job, Stephen. Anything on that? Okay. Next, consent item 3B. There's 8 work session summaries to approve.
Yeah, it's doing some catch up with some of the work sessions. This is for your consideration to approve work session summaries for January 2nd, 2019, January 16, March 20, April 3rd, May 1st, May 22nd, June 12th, and June 26th of 2019.
All right. I imagine nothing.
I was at these, so.
Then 3C, district court reclassification.
This is also for your consideration of reclassification in district court. And district court is going through the process, also trying to address the growing pains of their business in a way. And this request is to reclassify a vacant court assistant 1 to a court coordinator. And what this court coordinator is intended to do, as you know, the state law changes, in a yearly basis, and they need somebody who can understand what those changes are, and also train some of the staff related, the court assistants. They need to be trained on the new laws and the new requirements. This particular position is going to do that, provide that training on an ongoing basis on the different, and also overseeing the workload of the court assistants within that unit. The salary increase or the salary impact, this will go from $4,541 a month to $5,257 a month. That will be $716 a month, or 16% increase. They're not asking for a budget increase, and they're going to absorb within the current budget allocation. And again, this may appear to be a little bit high, but just for the viewing public, what I'm giving you the numbers is the top scale. The individual that may come in that new position may not be on the top scale, may start at the initial steps.
Just establishing a new ceiling.
Right. Yes, that's the maximum impact, what I give to you.
Questions? So this is just, they have a person already that they'll just be reclassifying, but they also went in that position already.
They have provided that training, but they have a vacant position, so the need of training is an ongoing basis.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, what they're doing is they're compensating with a temporary pay increase of 5%. And I have talked to Jennifer Creighton on this approach. And the temporary pay increase that we have available to all the offices and departments is temporary when there is a need for temporary functions above the functions that any particular position does. But considering there is a long-term need for this office, they have a vacant position, so they're trying to reclassify the vacant position to meet the long-term needs. That is really what is happening in district court.
Oh, good for you, Jennifer. Great. Good.
So they'll be hiring somebody for this new position?
Right.
Yeah, because that sounds like a pretty different skill set.
Right.
Okay.
All right, 3D, human resources.
This is a follow-up to the long conversation perhaps that you had last week, and this is related to the mental health positions. They will be funded by the BHO. And last week, you had a conversation related to 7.5 positions that will be needed across all the law and justice offices and departments to meet the demands of the new facilities they're going to be opening here. One is open and one is soon to be opened in the county. So this particular action will create 7.5 positions. And those will be 2 clerk judicial proceeding specialists, 1 clerk judicial support specialist, 1 legal assistant 2, 1 deputy prosecuting attorney 2, 1 defense attorney 2, 1 superior court coordinator, I believe that is a part-time position, and 1 security officer. And again, some of the facilities that have been open to provide mental health is a privately run, privately operated. That's how the state is moving forward to provide mental health services to the community. And within that context, they need to be providing hearings within the same facility. So as they provide hearings to those individuals, they need a courtroom, and they need all the individuals involved within those hearings. And this is going to address the first step of that need. And again, this is funded by the Thurston Mason Behavioral Health Organization at this point. There is no general fund, but as you may aware, you both sit on the BHO. The whole concept of the BHO is going to be changing in 2020, and at that point, not just the county, but across the state, we need to see how we're going to be able to provide the mental health services to those individuals within our community. So everything is changing, it's shifting. I believe Commissioner Edwards was advocating that perhaps we need to add additional positions. This is a request from the staff that perhaps this is what the offices and departments have provided in terms to meet the demands of the current demands of mental health services, and for your discussion.
You weren't here, but we chewed this up pretty extensively, so please take any and all the time you need on this.
Well, I understand the concept, given our role in the BHO governing board, but these 7 folks, where are they going to be housed when they're not at the... And I know from public
Okay.
defense, I don't, that's the only one I really know specifically, even pointing to Pat because he's here, but I know that they don't have additional capacity. And there's a defense lawyer involved, and I'm sure, I'm guessing that all the other departments are kind of stuffed.
And that is a good point, Commissioner.
I asked that question because of desks, computers,
Right.
phones.
Right.
Where's it going to land? And we just don't know.
We have not worked out all those details yet. What prompted this to come now is the clerk needs to hire as quickly as possible to have enough lead time to train the people that they hire. And until that happens, they're going to have to work the current people overtime. We had not been going to take this action until the midterm adjustment budget. So we would have had a little more time to figure it out, but your seatmates thought it prudent to approve all the FTEs now because there's a lead time to hire for all of them. So we're approving the positions, and then the group will come and talk with you on Wednesday afternoon as part of the budget process.
The group being...
Judge Schaller, Pam Hartman-Beyer, Patrick O'Connor, Christy Peters, Scott Cushing, Linda Meyer, and Tony Sharp will all be here, and I've invited Mark Friedman.
Good, because obviously it's a legal mandate that these folks suffering from illness have due process.
Right.
So the U.S. Health Vest is due to start doing the ITA Involuntary
September.
Treatment Act hearings starting mid-September.
That's what
So
they
there's a
said.
real push to get folks hired right away. And our seatmate wanted to hire several additional folks, almost to the tune of double. And I just was advocating maybe to have Patrick take a look at it again, maybe 1 more. If we need X amount of prosecutors, why wouldn't we need the same amount of defense? But he's already sorted that out. He's a brilliant man, of course. And so I'm happy with the 7.5.
At this point
At
in
this
time.
point, doing a stair
Right,
step.
and we may need more in the future, and that's what they will talk to you about on Wednesday. But we need to find space, we need to get them hired, we need to get them all trained. There are a number of hurdles, but the facility is opening and going to begin the hearings next month, so we've got to move on
So
this.
the facility's open now, and they have to
Oh,
go through
that's
the
right. It's got
certification phase
people
now.
there.
Now they're
Apparently
starting.
they've made it through that. Yes, I've seen lots of heads nodding in the audience.
So considering that Commissioner Edwards had a different perspective last week, as you've heard, in terms of the number of positions, and this is a recommendation from staff based on the workload. This is the first step to again address the current needs of the new facility being open by the end of September. And this item is in the consent agenda tomorrow.
Mhm.
And so I don't know how you would like to manage to give Commissioner Edwards the opportunity to state what his perspective is on this, considering he's not here today.
Mhm.
So that's what I like to ask, whether you like to open tomorrow within the consent agenda as a specific item, or just go as process as usual, or bring this item outside and have a department conversation.
Can I just ask, Commissioner Edwards' perspective was that we need more positions than what's listed here, but we're not precluded from adding them if we need them.
That's correct.
But he wanted to get them up front.
That is correct.
Okay.
It's on tape, so it's on the record. He wanted 15 because he says the money comes from the state. This seems to be, it's a mandate, we need these positions for, to protect folks and give them their civil rights. And so since the money comes from the state, he considered it not sufficient amount of funding for 7.5. He wanted to do the 15 because we may eventually need them and make the state pay for it. But if we hire positions, we have to put the funding in place whether we hire them or not, if we add the FTEs.
Right.
And we're not ready to do that.
Yeah,
So-
well, and I mean, the state, I know I don't know if you were sent to talk to legislators this session about getting money from the state, and we
Right.
didn't get it, so it's not coming from the state.
Right, well, and if we, as you said, we're not precluded from hiring additional in the future if we need it. We're not, this isn't a limitation on us, but it's a first step, a stair step. If we need more down the road, we have to see what the workload is.
Yeah, I would just point out that, people to understand, the BHO's funding capacity to handle a whole bunch of needs in the community is being squeezed down. If we overshoot this, we're gonna be taking money away from that whole portfolio of services that's already gonna be squeezed really horribly
That
this year.
possibly keep people out of this situation, services that might
Mhm.
preclude them from coming and being in a situation where they're going through an involuntary hearing. We had that very conversation, that was part of the conversation we had
Okay.
last week.
Okay,
So,
great.
but it is important to keep that in mind, and what we talked about was the need to balance.
So going to Ramiro's question, Commissioner Edwards had a chance to weigh in on it last week, and if we keep it on consent, we really won't have it. But if we pull it out and put it as a separate agenda item, he can opine on it then if he wants to. Are you okay with moving it out?
Yeah.
Let's do that then, let's move it out.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so that would be good.
Thank you for that suggestion.
Yeah, so just to give Commissioner Edwards to express his perspective on those positions. So we'll do that, department item.
So 3D will become some other number
Yeah.
in the agenda.
Can you call Lauren? Although she's here, but listed, I don't know if she's going to be in the position to, right, we'll coordinate that.
If no one is there from HR, I could certainly present.
Well, and, which
Right, we
is
work
very
it out.
simple.
Thank you.
Anything more on that? Okay. That takes us to 3E on the consent items, which is the financial report, the
that's
voucher list.
That's your weekly approval.
And went through that. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
Jose, see you. That takes us to department items. Agenda item number 4, the Sheriff's Department, a contract for an SRO within Rochester. And the next one, Rainier.
Yeah, this is for your consideration, is to renew a contract with the Rochester School District with the Sheriff's Office for $60,000. This is to provide a school resource officer, sheriff deputy for the Rochester School District for the school year 2019-2020. And again, it's part-time, $60,000. And those functions will be performed by the sheriff deputy, which is in overtime. Usually those are not taken away from the normal duties as they see fit. The next item, 4B, is the same contracts of renewal, but in this case with the city of Rainier. For the Rainier school districts for the school year 2019-2020, and in this case it's only for $40,000 a year.
Any questions on the SROs for both school districts?
Can you repeat what you said about the overtime?
Yeah, usually those resources are not provided by a deputy that is performing the duties of patrolling the county. This is on an overtime basis. So outside of the normal schedule, that they offer those to sheriff deputies to participate in this.
Oh, so the school districts are
They're paying.
They're
reaching out to
They're
pay.
paying the
Okay.
sheriff's office.
So 100,000 for essentially one full-time.
Perhaps
It
the
adds
equivalent.
up about
Yeah.
that, yeah.
How long have they been doing this, those two schools?
For those two school districts, I believe this is the third year they have provided that. They also provide a school resource officer to the North Thurston School District. That is actually a full-time position, and that was created, that position predicated on the funding from the North Thurston School District. That one is a little bit different, because that was specifically sheriff deputy created to provide full-time school resource officer to the North Thurston School District. Different.
And on the same topic, it seems to me, unless it's changed over the last number of years, that there are two schools in the county, but they're in the Olympia School District, being Centennial and L.P. Brown, that are handled by Olympia Police. Their school resource officer. We don't handle those two schools, I don't believe, for SRO.
No, this is unincorporated.
Right, and those two schools are in unincorporated, but handled by the city, not by the county. It's in that school
Olympia
district.
UGA, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Department item number 5, Public Health and Social Services.
This, for your consideration, is to approve an amendment number 2 to receive additional funding from Pierce County, and also to increase the term of the contract from June 20 to June 20, 2020. Pierce County is the recipient of the National Estuary Program. That's the funding by the federal government related to enhance Puget Sound water quality. And as a select recipient, we receive money from Pierce County to provide those services. We have already a contract in place. And there is the additional money of $193,000 that will be provided to the county to provide those services for a total contract amount of $303,150. One of the tasks associated with this new contract is for pollution correction, facilitation, and enforcement. Additional funding will allow the Department of Public Health and Social Services to work with the community members to address water pollution problems associated with Dobbs Creek. camping club, including the evaluation of wastewater treatment alternatives. And this is a follow-up to the planning session conversation that you had back in June 20th of this year. Also, it included is additional contract with the Thurston Conservation District for $130,000 to provide technical assistance related to agricultural best management practices. I believe Art Story provided additional information last week, and he's here to answer any additional questions you may have.
Any questions?
You want me to come up? Okay.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Dobbs
Art
Creek,
Story.
Good morning. I'm Art Starry, Environmental Health Director for Thurston County Public Health and Social Services. And somewhat familiar with this project.
Well, we asked him a question. Should he turn and face the camera with his back to us?
I could get a phone or something. But
Oh, he's fine. Yeah, he's fine.
Okay.
I mean, since I missed the, I guess, presentation last week about it, is there anything that you wanted to add to what Ramiro just said?
just know Ramiro did a great job summarizing it. In case people are wondering why is it that we're getting money from Pierce County, it's because years ago one of the funding methods for Puget Sound activities changed, and so there's something called the Early Action Agenda, and counties had to submit something called near-term actions to try to propose ways to clean up Puget Sound. And so the South Puget Sound counties worked together with Pierce County to submit a proposal for trying to address pollution problems in shellfish protection districts. And so we are part of that project. Ultimately, the proposal was accepted. It was put on in the action agenda, and funding was provided. And our highest priority is to work to clean up the pollution in Dobbs and Fleming Creeks, which has led to a downgrade in Henderson Inlet. And so that work started a few years ago. Actually, this proposal started in 2016. This last year, we submitted, additional funding was provided. We submitted an addendum or an additional proposal to try to respond to the camping club issues that we found. And as part of that also, the Conservation District is included because we anticipate that agricultural practices are also contributing to those pollution problems. And so this funding is now available for that. And because it's kind of a regional proposal, and the Pierce County folks were nice enough to be kind of the prime recipient, we're having to subcontract with them in order to get the funding to do that. So it's a little bit of a more complex agreement than we'd like, just because of the way the funding works, but we are able to get the funding. And the neat thing is it's providing 100% funding. We don't even have to provide grant match. It covers our overhead, and it allows us to address a critical need. So we're very thankful that we got this opportunity.
How, you said TCD will work on agricultural practices. The other piece of the funding, how specific were we in terms of what we're going to do?
So what as Ramiro indicated, it identifies the camping club as being something fairly specific that we need to look at. So we'll continue to work with the camping club to identify options for sewage management, and it also provides up to, I think it's $60,000 that we can use to actually help developing, designs or options for that. So it identifies that as something specifically we have to work on. And then in addition to that, it provides resources for us to go and evaluate septic systems and other pollution sources within the watershed. So it lists that fairly or specifically because we know that's an issue. And the work that we showed you in June that Ramiro talked about, we identified that stretch of the stream is clearly, where the camping club is clearly impacting water quality. And so we know we've got problems that we have to work on.
Is this is this kind of a new, when do we know that we were going to be able to get this money?
Well, we knew it about beginning of the year, and the contracting and approval process has taken several months.
Okay.
Or maybe it was in the tail end of last year where we found out that this proposal had ranked high in the National Estuary Program funding list. And so we knew the money was coming, but it takes a long time, and that's the the pitfall, I guess, of some of the grant funding things. It takes a long time to submit proposals, run them through the process, and get approval. And so, so we've known it for a while, and now it's finally coming to fruition. So, and just to give you a heads up, Liz will be presenting this contract tomorrow night, if that's okay with you folks. We were trying to be efficient, so that way Liz is gonna be the star of the public health show at the commissioners meeting.
Potentially.
Along with Marianne. Marianne will be tough to be
Marianne will
here.
be the star.
Yeah.
Good, okay.
Well, thank you.
Agenda item number 6 is Emergency Services Home Elevation Project Agreement.
As you may recall, Commissioners, you approved a similar contract maybe 3 weeks ago, a month ago. We're getting into a contract to elevate a particular structure that is located within the floodplain. And this is goes back to the 2015 when we received emergency funding through the hazardous mitigation grant. And in this case is to get into a contract agreement with Ms. Iris Meningel, whose house is located in 18629 Southeast Old Camp Lane in Yale, Washington, for a cost of $96,717.71. And there is a match requirement with this grant, and the property owner is required to come up with a match. And again, the intent is to elevate that structure to avoid any future damages in case that area gets flooded again. This is the second structure out of this grant. And with this item, if you approve it, then the grant will be exhausted and there will not be any additional money to elevate any other structures.
Vicki, anything?
No, sir.
Okay. Good, thank you for that. Number 7, County Manager. Oh yeah, this is a good one.
Yeah, under normal circumstances, this item you have on the consent agenda, but considering the appointment of Ms. Kia Ramirez to the youth representative at large to the Thurston County Fair Board is from the Yelm area, and she has agreed to come and have a conversation with you. It will be a great opportunity for you to welcome her. As you may recall, she had a nice picture with a goat or sheep. And she will not be able to bring the sheep with her, but certainly she will be able to express verbally what her interest is on serving the airport. Her appointment goes from August 27, 2019 through August 27, 2023.
Okay, any questions?
No.
Yeah, that's good, I'm glad she's gonna be there. Okay. But no sheep, maybe a guinea pig or something.
Maybe.
Okay. 7B, public hearing for the TCD.
You may recall the Thurston Conservation District provided a formal presentation to the commissioners back in July, where they formally submitted a resolution the Thurston Conservation District Board of Supervisors passed, suggesting and requesting the Board of County Commissioners to consider approval the rates and charges for 2020 for a period of 5 years. That's the recommendation that has come before the Board of County Commissioners. Before the board can take any action and any approval of any rates and charges, you need to hold a public hearing. And during the public hearing, you will hear public testimony where you can probably approve the rates and charges, not approve the rates and charges, as well as you can determine the period in which the board would like to exercise the rates and charges. Let me take you back a couple of years. Back in 2017, the Thurston Conservation District didn't meet some of the requirements to inform the public as to the rates and charges. As a result, the board couldn't take an action for the rates and charges in 2018. So the Thurston Conservation District went without that funding in 2018. But in 2018, they met all the requirements. That conversation came to the Board of County Commissioners, and in December of 2018, the board approved a 1 year of the raising charges for 2019. That lapses in December 31st of this year, and this proposal is for you to consider extending the raising charges. And again, the public hearing for your consideration is to be held on September 24, 2019, 5:30 in the afternoon in this room. And the resolution will have a 5-year period. This is not an advocacy by staff. This is just to be respectful of the Thurston Conservation District Board of Supervisors ordinance, which they requested to you a 5-year period.
Good.
And it's not so much just it's just the duration, not so much the amount and duration.
The raising charges are a set amount. Let me take you back to the conversation last year extensively, where the board explored the options to change some of the amounts, and the board doesn't have that ability to change the raising charges.
Right, I remember that discussion.
The board responsibility is to approve the raising charges. You as a legislative authority is the only authority who can impose any rates, charges, taxes, and fees in the county, regardless who is using that revenue. And also you have the option to determine whether you'd like to go with 1 year, 5 years, as the Board of Supervisors suggested to you, 10 years or beyond.
Got it.
Those are the few options that you have.
And I want the public to know that we don't set the amount, but we codify it. Okay. Anything on that? Okay, good. Then we do the typical wrap-up, Commissioner reports, County Manager report. And that ends the BoCC meeting for tomorrow evening, the 27th, in Yelm. And you'll let Commissioner Edwards know that consent item was moved out of consent.
Absolutely.
So thank you. Now we move into proclamations and awards. La Bonita.
Yes.
Bomar.
Good morning again. La Bonita Bomar, clerk of the board. I don't have any new proclamations and awards this week, so I'd like to move into boards and commissions.
Let's do that.
All right. In your packet, you have 2 new applications, and they are for the Fair Board. Harley Jo Holman and Monica Alvarez Rodriguez, and they are both, well, one is, yes, they are both student applications, and today I was just going to bring it to your attention so you have time to review them.
How many vacancies on the student? Is it 2 or?
Well, what they're doing, which is really nice, is that they have 2 students, but they are also eligible to be member at large.
Okay.
So these positions would actually be going forward as member at large.
At large.
Okay.
As the Bear Board members suggested of supporting?
Yes. Teresa staff has been supporting the student applications, as you have known, with Kyra, Monica, and Harley Jo.
Is Monica related to Kia
No.
or no?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Oh, no, I see that. No, they're not.
Ramirez, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so Monica says interested in Fair Board youth position, but you're saying that she could be slotted to an at-large position.
That is correct.
And there's no difference in status between those two?
No, there are not.
Apparently Kia put the word out. All 3, that's great.
It is.
So we want to wait until our seatmate comes back and we can chew on that for next week.
Yeah, we'll bring this item again, conversation next Tuesday.
Thank you.
Very nice.
And that's all the updates that I have.
Thank you, Ron. Now we're moving to PIO check-in.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Just a reminder, tomorrow night, 5:30 p.m., Yelm Middle School Commons at 402 West Yelm Avenue in Yelm is the Commissioners' regular meeting. It will be live streamed, so they went out and tested it. I know that was a question that came up. They went out and tested it. It's going to work, so it will be live streamed, so that's good. Obviously, today's not being live streamed, but Martha is filming us today. The power down this weekend, we didn't have time to get the system back running before the meeting this morning, and so we're scheduled this afternoon to get it up and running. So tomorrow morning, the agenda should be live streamed, everything as usual. If for some reason something's going on with the system, we will put it out on social media if we're not able to live stream tomorrow morning. And that's really all I have for you.
Vicki, do you have anything for the PIO on behalf of Commissioner Edwards? For Megan?
I don't think so.
Commissioner Menzer?
I don't think so. So wait, tomorrow's agenda setting for, we have a meeting on the 3rd?
Tomorrow we
3rd
have
of
a meeting
September?
from 9 to 10, and 2 items that you have in there. One is for your consideration is the awarding the grants for the conservation features. That conversation was scheduled for you to have that tomorrow morning.
Okay.
And we have another conversation from Public Works related to our proposed changes on the Thurston County code related to the stormwater fees. Those are the only 2 items that you have tomorrow. But I have to split it because of all the commitments that you have on your schedule related to the budget this week.
For September 3rd, Tuesday, we do not have a BoCC meeting because it's following.
There is no, I'm sorry, that's where you.
Yes, we've asked
No,
you.
we don't have a board meeting on the 3rd, but we don't have an agenda setting on the 3rd
Yes.
to review the agenda for the 10th
Okay.
and other items.
So we're having an agenda setting tomorrow, but it's not to review an agenda.
No, it's
to
just titled as
discuss
such, but we
other
have
items
a couple of items for discussion.
with you.
Confusing.
And once we've decided, then word will get out on social media, wherever, that there's no BoCC meeting on the 3rd.
Yes.
Okay. I have nothing for you, Megan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner items, we're moving right along. Commissioner items, and the first one is revisions to the Thurston County Code, Chapter 15.20, Apprenticeship Program.
Public Works staff is here to give you an overview as a follow-up to the conversation that you had earlier in the year, where the board directed the staff to come up with a proposal to increase the apprenticeship program for projects above $1 million, capital projects. The proposal was to bring this apprenticeship program from 10% that is currently in code to 15%, and staff is here to walk you through the process. The next step in the process will be for you to set a public hearing. As any changes that you will have related to the code, you need to have public testimony, and after that, you're going to be in a position to make a decision.
Good morning, Commissioner. Jennifer Walker, Public Works Director, and with me is Sam Najati, Utility Planner. So we originally had these combined to do the code changes for 1520 and then also 1506. So we have split them up, and Zainab is going to walk through. There's 3 minor changes to the code.
Yeah, so do you guys have a packet?
Yeah,
Yep.
Oh,
Right here, Brenda.
so if you go over to the second, sorry, the 3rd page of your packet, you'll start to see the changes is just really minor. So under definitions, we have a strikeout for 10, change it to 15%. Underneath apprentice required in public works, once again, there's another strikeout of the 10% to change it to 15%. And then under section 1520.050 reporting, instead of the chief administrative officer, the county manager would be the individual to report back to the Board of County Commissioners on how the apprentice utilization requirement.
The assistant county
So-
manager.
Oh, assistant, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, so that's, I mean, that's a fairly minor changes that would be required to increase the apprentice utilization requirement.
And as a reminder, this is for public works projects that are $1 million or more, these requirements would be regarded.
Have you any questions or comments?
No, no, straightforward. I had a chance to, it was completely unrelated, but the State Apprenticeship Council has quarterly meetings, and the last one was here in Thurston County, and they just asked me to welcome people. And so in preparation for that, I was digging even further into apprenticeship, and learned a lot of interesting stuff, like Washington needs almost a million new workers over the next decade of these types of, the types of jobs that apprenticeship is geared toward preparing, and our colleges aren't really doing the job, in preparing those workers, and it's going to have a great economic benefit for Washington to have these programs grow. So I'm glad we're moving forward on this.
Mm-hmm. Good. Vicki, any questions that,
I believe commissioners were thoroughly briefed when the work session happened, and I think Commissioner Edwards was fine with this.
good, okay. The only question I have is, well, not a question, just a comment. On page 2 of the ordinance, there's a typo, but I'll let you find it.
Such an
Ready for, do
signature.
you have anything further?
Well, we want to keep you on your toes, so thank you.
I've also never been called a member. I don't know if that's normal.
Oh, that's right, yeah, member.
It might just be an artifact of
Wow.
We're using the template that was provided, so
Okay.
we will change that. I will change that.
I mean, I am a member of the county commission, but
Good
it just
job.
seems like a strange.
That's the template, but we can change the template.
Anything further?
Nope.
Okay, thank you.
So the next step, you will see an agenda item, hopefully by the September 10th, board meeting where you will consider setting a public hearing to hear public testimony of these changes.
Okay. And now we move
Thank
into
you.
commissioner items. So I'm turning to my seatmate. Do you have any commissioner items?
Something that we talked about and that I sort of forgot. I keep bringing up this Ramirez, so I apologize because you probably explained it to me, but the folks that initially gave me the thought about the Accessible Communities Committee, they reached back out to me to find out where we were with it, and I just wanted to ask for an update or I think you already updated me, but sort of a refreshing my memory of where we stood.
We tried to see if we can just have the, one of the existing committees take over this responsibility. And this was the disability board. Unfortunately, that is outside of the purview. And so we're trying to see what is the level of effort that it will take to create a brand new committee. And in terms of what I'm struggling is who will be the right department who can staff that that committee. So still, what we need to bring is a proposal to you, to the board, as to how we're going to be staffing that committee, who's going to be responsible to managing that, and most importantly, it will be the outcome of that committee. What is the outcome of that committee is going to do related to the board? As you have, every single committee have deliverables, outcomes. They have their business approach. On this, seems to be a little bit unclear as to what that is. So we're going to be reaching out to Pierce County as to how they're managing that. So that is some of the things the staff needs to do to bring additional information to you.
Okay, thanks.
I'm looking on my calendar. Do you have any more time?
That was the only thing that was, I had on for today.
Okay. So I thought I had a meeting. I remember seeing a meeting with Brian, with you, with State Fish regarding Boston Harbor. And I'll be doggone, I can't find it now. And I know he met with Commissioner Edwards last week, I believe it was. And I had it on my calendar. I don't see it now. I don't know if it's been canceled or what. But have you met with Brian with State Fish
Yes,
about Boston Harbor?
yes. It's been 2 or 3 months ago, maybe.
Okay. Yeah, this was recently with Gary Edwards.
I don't think the meeting was necessarily related to the Boston Harbor.
Not
It
that,
was more
okay.
related to the purchase, the grant, the State Fish and Wildlife has secured from RCO. And this is the property of Dr. Burnett, as you may
Burnett's.
recall.
Okay.
And across the road, there is another additional property that perhaps the county could partner with Fish and Wildlife. And that property across the road is really with some potential mitigation credits for the Panzama pocket gopher. I believe that conversation was occurred with Commissioner Edwards. There is a meeting, and I asked Josh Cummings to attend on September 6th, where they're going to start talking about that purchase. The grant the State Fish and Wildlife received from RCO is not enough to purchase the entire property. So I believe the September 6th meeting with some of the stakeholders will be what are the next steps in the process. And again, since I have a conflict that day, I asked Josh to attend, represent the county.
Okay. And my executive aide, Kelly Lee, I haven't seen her for a few weeks now. I don't know where she is. But I have others that are scheduling things for me.
Kelly who?
Who? Do you remember scheduling Brian with me?
No, just Brad before.
Brad, there was
Yeah,
Brad
you
up.
met with him right before Commissioner Edwards did last week.
Right, I
It
remember
was
that.
last week.
Okay.
But no, not Brian.
I might have been a dream. Never mind.
Now that you say that, I think the guy I met with was not Brian about
Oh.
Boston Harbor. Wasn't it Larry?
Oh, that's right. That's why I'm getting mixed up. Okay. Larry. But I thought I could have
haven't met
sworn
him.
I
I
saw
haven't
him
met
on my
Brian.
Then I would
calendar.
turn right along with you, Brian. That was Larry.
I cut this piece out. All right, thank you. I went through my phone list. I don't have any current items for discussion.
I just want to share with you, since we're going to have a joint meeting with the City of Lacey this Thursday at 6 in the afternoon, and this Lacey City Council this past Friday, Commissioner Hutchins and myself met with Mayor Ryder and City Manager Scott Spence, and we finalized the agenda.
Oh,
So
good.
here's a copy of the agenda for
was a good meeting.
Thursday.
Mhm.
And I believe it was a good pre-meeting.
Thank you, sir.
Man,
Is there enough time to get through all that?
So we did some,
I see SWAC and annexation. It's like, we're gonna need a day.
so we did have a conversation that we're gonna try to manage in terms of time allocations. And hopefully we'll go through according to plan.
We discussed that. They're meaty topics.
Yeah.
But some are pretty, even though they're meaty, it's just pretty much just an update on where we are with the topic.
So as you may recall, the item on 7 in the evening is suggestion as to how the mitigation site should be renamed as the Regional Transition Resource Center. as you may recall, as the Regional Housing Committee, urban
Council or, yeah.
Regional Housing Council.
Yeah, that one. It was a meeting last week. I didn't have a chance to attend, but Commissioner Hutchins attended. They're looking as to how this particular site could be used as a resource. Having as labeled as a mitigation site is narrowed down, or perhaps just a single option. And I think the conversation they occurred on Friday with Mayor Ryder and Scott Spence, it was perhaps looking beyond what is a mitigation site, so that it could perhaps provide a better value added to the homeless problems that we have. So this will be a good opportunity to hear from this from the City Council, and allows you the opportunity to provide your perspective on that as well.
The mitigation site, generally, from what I'm hearing, and from my perspective, is a supervised campsite. And this is far beyond that. This is almost aligned with the Olympian model of the tiny homes, where resources are brought in to help people transition out and get their lives back in order and move them on, which is a far better term
Right.
than the single narrow scope mitigation.
Great.
That's a proposed name.
Yep.
Do you have any, when you look at some of these topics, do you have questions about what's going to be discussed?
Well, I got a, whatever you want to call it, a preview of the specific issue with the I think it would fall under Stillicum annexation.
Mhm.
This pump thing that was on the property that nobody knew about.
Yeah.
And so I have a perspective about that. I mean, I don't know what you've learned about it or I was kind of hopeful that the parties could sort of work through a compromise or something. I mean, so I didn't know if discussions like that have happened, but
When I first heard of this site was just 2 weeks ago, and it was, hey, did you know? No, I didn't know that, but the sky's not falling. And it was almost along those lines. And then once I learned more from Romero and staff about it, I'm okay with it. And now it's not like anything surreptitiously was done
right.
to slide something under the carpet, because it caught everybody off guard. But even though it went back to 1999, it's been updated completely, upgraded in 2015, functioning fine. And now it's just a matter of how we work it out with Lacey, come to terms with it, but move on with the annexation process and not start from step one again.
Yeah.
And they seem amenable to working it out, as we are.
Yeah,
Which is coming to an agreement.
that's
Or
probably the sense that we had on Friday with Mayor Ryder and Scott, because obviously, as any of these items could probably take an hour to discuss. I think the intent will be to hear the issue and perhaps just have staff to come and work on a compromise, because they all or nothing really never works. And I think finding a compromise, that's probably what we need to go.
If they want to annex, we want it to go through as well. We have this issue, so we just mediate it.
And last week, the board had the opportunity to discuss this item. And some of the concerns, as I stated to Mayor Ryder and Ms. Scott last Friday, was the precedent setting of an annexation. Meaning a jurisdiction can come and annex a particular areas of the county, and that is the you take the good, the bad, and the not necessarily good and bad.
That was my. I mean, it was
Right.
like you either look at annexations at a high level, or you go case by case and get into the weeds. I thought we'd been moving away from trying to get into the weeds case by case and getting at a high level. If you stay at a high level, you take the good with the bad. I mean, we are, Lacey doesn't like it when we accuse them of cherry picking, economically profitable properties, and they shouldn't be accusing us of trying to offload some, it's not, you keep it square and orderly and sensible, and then you really don't go you don't go deeper than that, because there's always going to be whoever's the loser or the winner starts pointing fingers, and you get a process that just comes down every single time, which I thought is exactly what we were trying to avoid.
Yeah, and that was the message we sent to, we
Yeah.
expressed to Mayor Ryder and Scott Spence is, because it is a real concern from the board, any potential annexation in the future, it will get down to the picking and choosing the elements they like to maintain or not. And then elevating to the overall annexation, there is an piece of infrastructure, a signal or whatever.
Yeah.
A road or signal may not be up to standards, and that is the rules of engagement in any annexation.
And we certainly didn't know anything about that we had multiple discussions.
Yeah.
And at no point did we know about that. So the idea that there was.
And granted, obviously, some county staff knew the existence of this, but
Right.
like the county staff who knew the existence of this may not necessarily knew the annexation process was going. So it was
Right,
so
there
it
was no.
And also, I think in this case, it does require to look a little bit different, because the system itself, with the proposed annexation, portion of the system will be within the city of Lacey, and another portion of the system will be within the county.
Right.
And I think that by itself provides an opportunity to look a little bit differently.
Okay, fair enough.
And I agree with you that we're looking at it from a policy level, and that we even discussed the potential legislation, annexation legislation, this next session.
Is that what
And-
this item's about, is talking
Yeah.
about next legislative session?
Yeah. But when staff found this issue, it comes back up to a policy level now. How do you work it out with the cities? So not, we weren't digging down, but when it pops up, we have to deal with it at that level. Because it could set up precedents for another annexation down the road, years down the road, with another city. How are we gonna handle it? Well, we work together to handle it.
If I understood it right, it's probably unlikely that this exact type of situation would occur, right? I mean, it says that this was an unusual makeshift sort of,
It isn't unusual.
that you'd have the system draining onto a dip
And even-
outside the annexation.
And we had the conversation, although the system was obviously to address a flooding that occurred back in 1996. Really, in the 1996 flooding, as you may recall, it was significant. And that's how the system was built. There's a tide line, there's no contributions to other than addressing the flooding in this neighborhood. And but that was back in 1999. On the current regulations, that system will have never been approved at this point. It's just because you couldn't take water from one basin to another.
But to Ty's question, next time a city comes up with a proposed annexation, as Lacey did in this case, and we look at it, and it goes to the planning commission, we counter offer. At some point when staff noticed this, is that when it rose right away to us? Or did it take an extended period of time before it came to our attention? Oh, by the way, this exists. Or Lacey had to find it and bring it to our attention.
Well, I think it's probably from both parties. It needs to occur that if something like this needs to be brought to your attention. But if with all due respect, where do you draw the line? What elements the commission needs to hear? Is it a traffic signal that is not up to standard?
Right.
So what is it?
And that seems simplistic, really.
That is.
We're talking about Department of Ecology approval, and it's in the city proposed annexation, and it crosses into beyond the UGA and such. That kind of seems to raise a little bit higher level of importance than signal or streets. But
So, and I guess what I'm a little bit of, not sort of committed, because I wouldn't be able to submit to you to bring those items down the road, because as we didn't know this occurred, how we can go through that level of detail when an annexation proposal is coming
Yeah,
over.
because
but city told us about it, right?
Well, the city, and also I think even from the city's perspective, they acknowledge they have to also do a due diligence before an annexation.
Right, but I was advised by the city, you were advised by the city, did staff advised us about the same time then, oh, by the way?
I
But we didn't know.
believe that the city advised, Public Works and Public Works
Oh.
advised me.
Okay.
We have had, this is our second, since I've been on the commission, second meeting with Lacey, and I mean, I thought the first one was good, and I'm sure this one's gonna be really good. Is there a reason why we don't do a Tumwater meeting like
We
this?
discussed that too.
I have offered to the city managers,
Just their interest level?
Yeah.
Okay,
different.
And Lacey is leading the way.
yeah, great.
They're leading the way. And we're waiting for the others to follow along their lead, or our invitation. But obviously, we're open to it.
Yeah.
Just wait for them to accept. But good for Lacey. Anything further on that? It's gonna be action-packed and fun.
Absolutely.
Roberto, anything else?
No, sir.
Vicki, if you have anything on the commissioner's perspective or point of view from this?
No, sir.
Yeah, he hasn't seen this at all yet, but he will.
Correct.
Okay.
I think the only item of concern was the item we pulled off consent and made into a department item, so we should be good to go there.
Oh, good, okay, good. All right, nothing else for the good of the order? I'm looking around the room, head shakes, no, 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 no. Okay, then we're adjourned for the work session, and we will have budget. All right, thank you.